Sean Diddy Combs has been sitting in federal prison for 8 months, and it is a lousy prison. And I got to tell you, there is a world where people look at the indictment against him and look at the case as we know it at this point and say, wow, has this guy been overpunished to this point? But now it will begin in earnest on Monday, okay? And we're going to see whether or not the government has the ability to show charges that will have made it a huge mistake for Combs to not take a deal. Now, what's he charged with? Sex trafficking, racketeering, conspiracy, transportation to engage in prostitution. Now, I got to tell you, most of those are implication crimes, meaning that they're going to say, well, we can't get you specifically for this thing, but we know you were part of this enterprise that was doing this thing. If convicted, he could face life. He probably could have gotten a deal. He didn't want a deal. Was that right? Well, that'll be a function of who they bring in to testify. And now we have an idea. The star witnesses could very well be ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura, right? Yeah, we all saw this horrible video, but supposedly she has more to say, other criminality. We're also hearing that a male sex worker who allegedly took part in those infamous freak-offs could testify, as well as other accusers who've already filed civil suits against Combs. So let's discuss. Let's bring in trial attorney Misty Marris to help me understand why I have it wrong about this situation from a prosecution perspective, and one of Diddy's longtime lawyers. And by the way, my lawyer, I love it. We always talk about him being like everybody else, like I don't count. You know what I mean? Like I never get mentioned, you know. Garagos is my lawyer, too. Anyway, Mark, thank you for being here. So, Misty, the idea of, we'll get to the witnesses, but first, just the idea that I have not been blown away by this indictment, and I don't know why he would have ever taken a deal. You're saying I'm wrong, and I don't understand how he's exposed already. Tell me.
Absolutely, Chris. I'm shocked he didn't take this deal. Even a brilliant defense lawyer like my friend Mark Garagos over there, say he can get Diddy out of the charges that he's faced with, the sex trafficking, the RICO, the transportation of prostitution. Say all that goes away. The feds still have 3 AR-15 guns with scratched off serial numbers that were found in his possession. That's a minimum sentence of 15 years. So even if a rabbit comes out of a hat and all these other charges, there's an acquittal, that is still there. And I think he's toast on that.
What about that, Mark?
Can I say two things first? Number one.
Yes.
Kudos for last night. Your town hall was actually 2 nights ago was outstanding. Reminded me
Thanks.
of the CNN NAFTA one from the early 90s. That's number one. Number two, Misty, and I'm going to represent you here. I take a little offense about you rarely have somebody smarter or better looking than you on this show, and I guess that's why I'm a regular. But
smarter and. I said I rarely allow men who are smarter and better looking than I am to come on the show. That's what I said.
Yeah, which explains why I'm counted as a regular. So I'll let that just sit there. But let's talk about Diddy for a second. The ball game here is really the RICO action, the so-called enterprise. And the biggest problem the defense has got, but I think they're going to be able to convincingly show a jury, is that this video, which apparently everybody in the world has seen, of Cassie in the hallway, when you break it down, and when you see what the evidence is, they're going to that video is not what he's being charged with. What the prosecution is doing here is reinventing history. They're rewriting history. They're saying, no, that was not a domestic violence situation where the statute of limitations expired. And yes, it's horrible. And yes, it was a misdemeanor. And yes, it was in LA County. But we're going to now say 8 years later that was really had something to do with sex trafficking. And I frankly think that's going to be a bridge too far. I don't think they're going to have the evidence to show that. And I would imagine that Cassie is not going to say that. I think you're also going to see witness after witness say, I never went to the police. I didn't do anything in this case, at least in Cassie's case, until I got on the eve of the Adult Survivors Act. And then my lawyer crafted this whole theory. And that's when I got paid. And by the way, that's when the Southern District decided they're going to criminally prosecute based on a civil lawyer's complaint. I think that is what this case is going to come down to.
So cogent, but I must say, I am very impressed that you did a very interesting dodge. You complimented me. You complimented News Nation. You told me I'm good looking. So now I'm like only 5% paying attention to anything else. And then you go eloquently through everything but what she said he's going to get nailed with for sure, which is the weapons that were in his possession with the scratched off serial numbers, which you neglected in your beautiful exposition.
Yeah, because I think that you're going to find that that is not a charged offense that is going to stick to him, and I'll just leave it at that. My belief is that that's actually, from my standpoint, the least of his worries at this point.
How can he get away from that, Misty?
I don't think he can, because it's so crystal clear, and to the extent that they were in his possession, which is my understanding thus far, that is something the feds are just going to have lingering over his head. Even if everything works out your way, you're just, there's no way to wiggle out of that. It's as simple as they're in your possession, they have the scratched off serial numbers, 15-year minimum sentence.
Yeah, there's constructive versus actual possession, and there's all of the law that has transpired in the last 20 years that basically when the guns are in your house, you're not going to get that far. So if I'm ranking my biggest worries or prognosticating my biggest worries, that's not it.
All right, well, we'll see. Let me ask you something else. Monday, jury selection. Mark, you first. Who is the right type of juror for the defense? And then, Misty, you give me the flip on the prosecution.
One of the misnomers about these trials is that somehow the judge has to find people that have not heard about the case. That's not the law. That's not the standard. And frankly, in New York, the idea of finding people who have not heard about Diddy or this case, if they're telling you that, 90% of the people that I run into have heard about it, and the other 10% are lying. Jerry Spence I used to discuss with him many years ago, the idea of somebody who says, I presume that he's guilty, but I can set it aside. That's somebody I might want to go for first.
Misty, who are they looking for, the prosecution side?
Listen, if I'm the prosecution, I want prudes. Keep in mind, the freak-offs are going to be a central part of this case. So I want people, I've been in a monogamous relationship since high school. I've never been to a strip club. I don't, I don't like anything that has to do with that, because I want them from the prosecution side to come in, look at those freak-offs, already have the it factor or the ick factor, so that they can take it to the next level and show how it actually violates the law. So that's what I'm looking for on this jury.
Well, if New York City's known for one thing, it's a high index of puritanical people. All right, thank you both very much. I know, right? That should be Gomorrah. All right, Mark, thank you very much. Have a good weekend. Misty, always a pleasure. I'll see you around town.
Yeah, thank you.